Now, you know there's a sun sign, and you know there's a sun sign astrology. But did you know that there's a moon sign astrology? This is a complete different approach to things. The moon represents our emotional needs. It really works around the idea of our home life, our emotional securities. Talks about babies because they're always hungry and needing nurture and caring. Everything about the moon is all about what I need, what I want, and how to be nurtured in our life. So when you hear about sun sign astrology, you don't really hear too much about moon sign astrology. Now, what's interesting is that thousands of years ago, moon sign astrology was really more popular than the sun sign astrology was, because everybody did the charts at night and they all looked at all of the circumstances about where the moon was during the evening rather than looking where the sun was. So the moon was very, very popular, very, very positive and powerful in the nighttime skies. So it rules the night. It's all about the night. And the moon, when it's very, very new, is very, very weak because there's no light. Now, one of the things you really want to recognize in astrology is the fact that we look at the chart and we want to see how much light can be shed on the planet, because that amount of light tells us that it has a force factor. So it's very important. Years ago, this was called phasing with the planets, and we're talking back in Babylonian and Greek days when the people were just, didn't have anything other than oil lamps and the night skies to look at. So while we're looking at the moon, we need to understand that it's hunger, it's craving, it needs to be satisfied because it's got a hole chunked out of it. It needs to be full. But when it's full, it's useless too, because, when you're full, you're not all that happy to go running around and doing things. But anyway, the moon sign is a very important situation in a chart. This is why, again, the sun sign astrology starts taking a back seat. The more you know about astrology, the more you're going to be able to use it for a functional tool. Now, behind me, I've got the moon set up here in the top end. The moon is, like I say, when you look at it, you can see it's hungry. It's got two chunks bitten out of it. It needs to be filled up, and because it's that way, it's looking for food. It's looking for nurturement. It's looking for fulfillment. It's hungry. It needs to sustain. It needs to become full, like the moon does in real life. We know that the moon goes from new to full to new again. So when a new moon develops, it's absolutely missing. It's not even in the sky. You can't see it. But as it crescents out, it goes to the first quarter, and then it goes from there around to the planetary points. When we look at the moon, we want to be sure that the moon itself will operate in the houses just like the other planets will. But as you know, when we put the moon in different quadrants or different houses or different divisions, it's going to be hungry for different things. If we see the moon in the first house, it's going to have a Mars type hunger. It's going to be hungry about what it can do for itself, what it needs for self-development, what it wants to do more of within its lifetime and life pattern to see about becoming more involved about itself. It's emotional involvement with the I, Me, Mine Club. When we put it in the second house, we see there's a hunger for money. There's a hunger and desire for things that we want to own and have stewardship over in our lives. When we put it in the third house, it represents the Gemini quality, and that Gemini quality is all about communication, all about our brothers, our sisters, our neighbors. There's a community effort that might go on with the moon in the third house like that. Moon in the fourth house is where it belongs. It's the house of Cancer, and that particular position shows a strong emotional tie to the family. It talks all about the babies in the family, how to take care of everybody in the family. This is very interconnected. When we put the moon in the fifth house, in Leo's house, we see now the moon is getting a little bit more fun-oriented. It wants to be creative, artistic. It wants to have fun in life. It wants to go to the movies. It wants to do things like that. It wants to be all the creative stuff we can think about. When we put the moon in Virgo, it now becomes very, very attentive to the details of getting things done right. It's where we do our most concise work is in Virgo. This is where you find accountants balancing the books deep into the night. In Libra, it's very, very sociable moon. This particular placement of the moon tells us that I want company. I want to be with people. I want to do things with people. I want to have a lot of fun with people. There ain't enough people in the world. I got to get to know them all. That's what that's about, because it's a Libra moon. When we see the moon in the 8th house, or the Scorpio house, this is an interest in other people's money. It's an interest in what people think of us, because what is their value according to my needs. So if you have a moon in the 8th house, be sure that you recognize that you work for people, or play with people, or associate with people that have the same common emotional value as you do, or else you'll find yourself out in the cold somewhat. Moon in Sagittarius, love of knowledge, love of travel, love of getting out into the wild blue yonder, love of religion, love of the meaning of life. This is all about the 9th house and what it's about and what we're dealing with in that lifestyle. Put the moon in the 10th house, this person is starving for some kind of recognition. Moon in the 10th is hungry for power. It's hungry for a wonderful job. It looks for its association in the work field, in the business place of life. It is definitely the kind of a person who wants to be in charge of a company, in charge of their own company. This is hungry for power. 11th house, hungry for friends, because we know we're hungry now with the moon. So this is friendship house. This is what I want. This is what I desire. These are the people I want to be with. So this is hungry for different things. It wants to wish, desire, and hope, and grab things as much as they can along the lines of friendships. In the 12th house, this is a moon that's kind of locked away, and it takes a little bit of doing to get out of here. Remember, we don't like to be in the 12th, the 6th, or the 8th house, because these houses have little effect. Moon in the 12th house kind of locks our emotions away. We don't really want people to know that we're hurting or we're having a bad time or something. What we want to do is just play it off and maybe just do the game without people really recognizing how deeply emotional we can be. So this is a reserved kind of a moon right here. So whenever we see the moon moving through the houses, that gives us a whole new aspect about who we are emotionally. So this gives us now a brand new idea about a second step in astrology. It's important to know that when we're looking at astrology charts, that the sun will give us a focus, the moon will give us an emotional need. These are the things that are very, very important to reading a chart and recognizing how astrology works. So you need to get down to the brass tacks here and do a little study on yourself about where your moon is, where your sun is, and that's the only two things you need to know right now. Just get your moon and your sun going, and we'll start playing with that.